What does the latest trade rumor say about the trade market the Lakers are about to enter? We'll tell you next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free. It's not going to be behind a paywall, and Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where a lot of folks, over 37,000 subscribers, are all hanging out, talking to each other, talking to us, no matter how you do it, Andy, though. Apple iTunes, Spotify, the aforementioned Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. However you engage, you are one of the people helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in this or any known universe. I'm Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky, spent a long time, almost 20 years covering the Lakers for a variety of outlets, including ESPN and The Athletic. Busy day, Andy, where a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to get into Deandre Ayton, comments that he made about touches. JJ Redick had to say about that. We are going to talk about the latest. I'm not even sure I can put this as a true rumor so much as it was maybe a suggestion.
Well, it was definitely a suggestion from DeMarcus Cousins, who last I checked is not a reporter. He's somebody. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins played in.
Well, for people who missed it, we'll get to it in a second. But it was DeMarcus Cousins on the
Run It Back TV
Run It Back podcast. He said he would suggested trading Austin Reaves for Dillon Brooks on Phoenix. The Dillon Brooks to LA stuff has been, that's been rumored and now as that Brooks as a player the Lakers might be interested. So it's a new suggested twist on a current rumor, I guess.
Should be noted that one half of this podcast actually over the offseason created a fake trade, that a 3-team deal with the Lakers, Rockets, and Nets that at the time would have sent Dillon Brooks to the Lakers. A lot of our audience pushed back hard against that, said I was a madman, frankly, Brian, and now they watch Dillon Brooks, and a lot of them would like him on this team as long as he never spoke.
So we'll get to that in a moment. Want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So this rumor is, again, rumor, suggestion, whatever you want to call it, and the reaction of Suns owner Mat Ishbia says a lot about what the Lakers are staring at as they go into towards February and the trade deadline. So that's coming up in a second, but we do have some housekeeping notes as the Lakers start the front side of a back-to-back tonight in New Orleans, Tuesday night in New Orleans. This is the game the Lakers really need to make sure that they win with a Wednesday visit to San Antonio on the horizon. Again, Noe Rui Hachimura, along with obviously Austin Reaves on the sidelines for this one. Gabe Vincent, though, Andy, might be getting close to getting back on the floor.
Well, he is definitely getting closer in the sense that he was upgraded to questionable, and you're not going to do that unless you expect somebody is getting close.
That's true. Yeah.
There's no reason to create even the perception that he could be coming back if you don't think he's going to be back for another 3 weeks.
You can't do that to fans, Andy. You can't dangle Gabe Vincent in front of Lakers fans and not have them and not provide it.
No, the Vincent hive's going to go pretty crazy if you keep putting this out there and not delivering.
The Vay hive.
Yeah, exactly. But whether Gabe plays Tuesday in New Orleans, Wednesday in San Antonio, or Friday versus the Bucks, it feels like this week is certainly a reasonable, if not expectation, anticipation. And off the top of my head, I can think of at least one second-year shooting guard's minutes who could be available.
Yeah. He's talking about Dalton Connect, folks. If you missed the show on Monday.
Was the only second-year player on this? Well, I guess Bronny.
Technically, Bronny is.
Bronny, but
He's technically,
he's not,
I guess, a shooting guard.
well, Bronny's minutes are not available because they don't exist.
That's true. If you missed Monday's show, we have a rundown on why Dalton Connect may be so deeply buried on the bench that he has to sit under it. The thing with Vincent, though, before we get back to this conversation about the trade deadline, is it's not just necessarily just about Gabe himself. The Lakers need bodies, especially if Dalton Connect is never going to play again, which he might, again, for reasons we explained on Monday's show. They need a more depth in the rotation. And while Vincent hasn't exactly lit the world on fire as a Laker, he can give them some minutes. They just need guys who can help take the, Luka down 2 or 3 minutes, LeBron down 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it might be. There's too much pressure on the top guys right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is. Gabe is obviously not the savior for this team, and he does not solve, a long list of issues, but he
actually
reliable.
Creates a few.
He creates a few, but I do think offsets a few just by being a fairly reliable person. He on the court, he doesn't play too far out of character. He is, if nothing else, more predictable than, say, Nick Smith Jr., who has a higher ceiling in terms of the best version of him, but I think his floor is much lower.
I think he has a higher ceiling as a scorer, obviously.
Yes.
Other things I don't, but
I actually think the best, I mean, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I think the highest end version of Nick Smith Jr. putting up 20 to 25 is honestly a higher ceiling version of whatever you're going to get from Gabe Vincent. However, the floor from Gabe, I think, is a wider, higher, and more reliable floor. That's the way I would put it.
Nick Smith's floor has got holes in it.
It's got holes in it. It's lower and it's narrow.
Through the subfloor.
Yeah, and it's narrow.
Yeah.
So
we'll see what happens. Like the Lakers, again, they just need they need bodies. They need the dues, so to speak. Obviously, they've got to figure out ways to just, to make that bench a little bit more robust. All right, let's jump into this Dillon Brooks, Austin Reaves conversation. First and foremost, Mat Ishbia, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, squashed this before it could even really become a thing, saying, "Don't even bother calling, Lakers. We don't want your Austin Reaves. It means giving up Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks not going anywhere." And in fairness, Brooks has been fantastic this year for a Suns team that was not supposed to go anywhere. And, as a culture setter, obviously he's played well. He shot the ball well. He's putting up 20 a night. I could see why Ishbia would say we're not going to trade him. I could also see why, if he did want to trade him, he'd also still say we're not going to do it. But setting that aside, Andy, do you even think the Lakers would entertain that offer?
No, I don't actually. I don't think that they would offer Austin Reaves for Dillon Brooks. I think, putting aside that whether you agree with this general consensus or not, you being the listener, the viewer, I think Brian would agree. The overwhelming, if not unanimous, consensus around the league is that Austin Reaves is a better player than Dillon Brooks. Again, I'm not asking you, the listener, to agree. I'm just explaining what I think that consensus is, and the Lakers would be in that camp. They are obviously fairly invested in Austin. They see Austin, I think, short of turning him into an all-star caliber player or higher. They see Austin as a foundational piece moving forward, or at least want to see if that can happen with Luka and Austin as that foundation. So I don't picture that offer even taking place. I think Phoenix, if it were actually put in front of them, I'm not even 100% sure really, I know what Mat Ishbia, as much as he is very, very willing to speak out of school, there is the obvious, what the hell else is he going to say? But I do think there is some truth to the idea that Phoenix is having a much better season than expected. Dillon Brooks, unquestionably, by all accounts, has been a major part of a culture change that has been in desperate need for years. And Austin is an impending free agent. Yeah. And I don't care how many promise rings he gives the Suns if they traded for him or whatever, he can walk. And you're not going to risk having egg on your face making that type of deal with the Lakers if you're the Suns. Like, it's not going to happen. But what Brian and I actually found interesting about this isn't even getting into a deep dive about Brooks for Reaves. Would you do it? Who would do it? Who wouldn't? Whatever. It's more about what we think this speaks to with the difficulties or obstacles the Lakers may face in general with the trade market over the next month. That actually, this story, and again, it's really more DeMarcus Cousins' opinion and Mat Ishbia entering the chat because of course he is. It's really more just, what does this say about the Lakers' odds and opportunities of doing anything impactful?
All right, we'll get to that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. And really quick, I lost my FanDuel page. Here we go. Fridays, they already feel different during basketball season. FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where the special prices drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, they become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and to make a move before the window closes. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app, see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday night, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Andy's starting that read like he was hitting the other kind of happy hour there. I, on the other hand, am ready to go to let you know that Locked on Lakers is also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business. I think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that is why this episode is brought to you by Quo. It's spelled Q-U-O. And it's a smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, when it's organized and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're working more opportunities to connect with more customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing ever gets missed. Everyone's seeing the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal, and it works right from your phone or computer. So you can even keep your existing number if you want. No surprise, Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free and get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Yeah, before we get into the sort of state of play, which I think is very relevant about this rumor, so to speak, or this suggestion, there are a couple other things that I do think stick out. The first one is the idea, like, it makes sense because Dillon Brooks is a defensive-oriented player, and the Lakers need that.
He's a two-way player. The Lakers need two-way players. He's a two-way player.
He is a less reliable offensive player than Austin is, but he's certainly a more reliable.
He's been a pretty good offensive player.
Right, but I mean, this year he's been quite good. But like broadly speaking, I think he's in a little less versatile. I don't trust Dillon Brooks as an offensive talent. Again, we don't have to debate it necessarily. We can, but we don't, it's not going to happen. So we don't have to debate it that much. I trust Austin more as an offensive player. Obviously trust Dillon Brooks more as a defensive one. But I do think it's always worth reminding folks that the combination of Austin with Luka has been really good. There is no reason to break up those two as a combination. Now, obviously, you've got to put the right pieces around them. But the idea of trading Reaves for blank because Austin is a problem working in combination with Luka, that part I don't buy. It doesn't make anybody untouchable. I'm just saying, if that's your logic, I think your logic is flawed.
My logic for breaking them up, as I've said many times, or the reason I would be open to it becoming a necessity would be that you're not going to be able to afford the pieces that you would need around Luka and Austin, the defense, the athleticism, the speed, the two-way presences you absolutely have to have around them, with Austin estimated to be costing $30 to $40 million annually, and Luka's cost. And as much as Luka and Austin, I agree, play very well off each other, and putting them on the court together works in terms of the two of them offensively from a functionality standpoint, there's nothing Austin provides that Luka doesn't also provide. And I tend to believe, and it's not necessarily hard and fast all the time, but I tend to believe that as you are trying to construct a roster around your best player, your second best player ideally should at least bring some things the first best player doesn't. And the reality is Austin doesn't really bring anything that Luka doesn't.
Not definitively. I agree with that.
So that would be the reason
Sure.
that ultimately you need to use more resources towards offsetting the stuff Luka doesn't bring, or frankly, the stuff Luka needs more than Austin, who is just a good fit alongside Luka.
The Brooks, who is 3 years older than Austin.
I think he's 29, something like that.
Brooks is, I thought he was already 30, but either way, he, just so people are aware, makes $20 million next year, and then is an unrestricted free agent. So the Lakers theoretically would have a little bit more to work with next summer, but then obviously to turn around and pay Dillon Brooks the year following. But either way, the other question would become, do you think the Lakers could get Dillon Brooks without giving up Austin Reaves? And the answer to that would be definitively no.
No.
Right. And so that is one of the things that, to me, leads into the challenge that the Lakers have in this trade deadline. Mark Stein, for example, he sent out, in his Substack, the kind of an update on, the trade deadline and all that kind of stuff. He said, quote, "It's believed that the Lakers are only going to sacrifice." Lakers are one of the many teams that want a 3-and-D wing and an upgrade on the wing. "It's believed the Lakers are only going to sacrifice their projected financial flexibility in the summer, which is expected to furnish them with the ability to make significant roster changes only if they can acquire a real needle mover at the position. Will such a player actually become available over the next 4 weeks and change?" So they want a needle mover, Andy. Okay. But they probably don't have the stuff to get one. So you can want a needle mover all you want. If you don't have the raw material to make that happen, we've been here before.
Well, particularly not now. You could maybe make more of a needle moving move around the draft or as free agency approaches, because you're going to have access to 2 more first round draft picks. So in theory, that could get you more of that needle mover. They only have 1 first round pick and only 1 player, Rui Hachimura, that has value as an actual player that they would be likely to move at all. But there's also the question of how many needle movers are even out there.
Yep.
I mean, putting aside the semantical debate of how you are defining needle mover, not everybody's is going to be the same. I don't expect that many people that would at least be considered by the majority of folks to be needle movers to actually be available.
I don't even know, like, who are the players? It's a really
Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, pick your assorted Pelicans.
If you
pick your assorted Nets.
If you think the Pelicans will blow it up. And again, nobody is going to tip their hand, but the Pelicans have made no indication that guys like, through the front channels, through the side channels, through the middle channels, they made no indication that somebody like Murphy or Herb Jones or a player like that is actually going to be available.
Sure.
And
granted, Herb Jones, I don't think is even eligible to be traded for like another week and a half, something like that. So to some degree, they can keep stretching and stringing this thing out anyway, because they can't move them even if they are open.
So like, I think, if you made the Pelicans like a really nice offer for Zion, I think you could have him.
Yeah.
But, Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, I think they believe are the types of players that you keep around in order to try to build something. And they've got, they like what Fears has done. We're going to see this team, by the way, Tuesday night. If you remember, the Lakers are playing in New Orleans.
Derek Queen's been
really good. Fears has been, I think not great, not as good as Queen has, but still pretty good. Like, you feel good about that draft pick, kind of good. So who else is there? Like, Dillon Brooks not going anywhere. Phoenix is too good. So unless you totally blow them away, that trade, that possibility isn't there. And like you mentioned various Nets.
I mean, Wiggins, Michael Porter Jr. Like, I'm saying, I don't think there are a lot. Trae Young, there was a report from Shams today at ESPN that the Hawks and Camp Trae Young are going to be working together to try to find a deal.
Washington, Andy, is a team.
Well, and
what will be a nonsensical deal for both teams.
But like, putting aside the fact that the Lakers don't even have the salaries to move for Trae Young would make no sense for the Lakers at all.
So when we come back, let's talk about a little bit more about like what this means. Because I find this posture a very common one for the Lakers. And then if we have time, we'll get into this 8 and stuff. So we'll do that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there is nothing like being in the building, that energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing their screens or guessing what the tickets are actually going to cost, because these services are always lying to you. But that's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward, intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps. The prices include fees up front, so that total is clear from the start. No ambiguity, whether it's an NBA game or another live event. Everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked on NBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Turns up on your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Get in on the action.
I find, Andy, always that the Lakers are really, really good at sounding like they want to be aggressive at times when they know there's no possibility of actually doing anything. I find this to be a very common Rob Pelinka approach to things, is like, when you know you're not going to have to make the hard decisions around the draft picks or guys that you'd like to keep, or like that trade that, like, ooh, is that a close one? Obviously anybody will make an easy no-brainer trade for, a great 3-and-D wing that costs you the one draft pick you can go and like Dalton Connect and 2 expiring contracts. That's not hard. It's the more challenging calls where you have to either be a little creative or something like that, where the Lakers tend not to get involved. And I find this, back to like the Lakers are willing to be aggressive if they can find a guy who really makes a difference. All right. Well, we all know that is sort of unlikely to be out there. And this sort of language is nothing new.
Well, I mean, it also depends on, again, like I said before, how are you defining needle mover? And we have seen that the type of players Rob Pelinka really values the most are star players. Like and obviously star players move the needle, but there are only so many to begin with, and very few are available. And the Lakers have no way of acquiring one right now because they're not trading Luka. LeBron has a no trade clause, and that's all their big salaries. So like it's the odds of getting a star player are somewhere between slim and non-existent. Does put aside whether or not the Lakers could even get him. Does Rob Pelinka consider a guy like Herb Jones, who is all defense caliber or has that type of potential, but he's never going to be a star in all likelihood in the league?
And is, by the way, not having a great season.
Sure, but he has been a very good defender in the past, like one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. His shot can come and go, but he is a very good player, and he's the type of player that you would put next to
instantly. I think becomes. I mean, maybe you still think Smart's a better defender overall, but I would say instantly becomes their best defender, certainly the best defender on the wing.
Does Rob value those type of players enough to give up assets of significance? We have not seen a lot of evidence that Rob, frankly, covets those type of players, much less would give up assets of significance.
Do you think
that?
Do you think that Herb Jones is worth a number one?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yes.
I think a number one that likely lands somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah,
which is what the Lakers would be offering.
If you draft in the 20s, you're hoping to get a Herb Jones. Yes.
Right. I agree with you. I don't think they would do that. I mean, the other thing that makes this complicated, because I don't want this to be just a Rob is always looking for reasons not to do something. Although I think there's a little bit of truth to that. It is worth noting that the Lakers' best thing that they can offer right now are expiring contracts. And the only one of those guys who, if you were a team that was trying to play for something, to get in the play-in or, to move up a seed, or like you're not one of the 3 or 4 teams that have just already kind of thrown in the towel. Gabe Vincent has no appeal. Maxi Kleber has no appeal. Rui Hachimura has some, but I think, one of the ironies of the way the Lakers have been sort of unable to get Rui involved in the ways that he was earlier in the season, and then combined with the recent injury, they've kind of hurt Rui's trade value. They've made Rui's shortcomings much more a feature of how they play on a night in, night out basis versus the stuff like that he does really well. Like the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, you're like, ooh, this Rui Hachimura, he's somebody that we will want on our team. And you might still think that because he's not changed as a player, but they have not done a great job featuring him in a way that makes other teams say, that's somebody that we would want to trade for. Because whether you agree with this trade or not, a Wiggins for Rui trade, for example, which as Miami, if Miami slips, maybe becomes more viable, is one of those balancing kinds of trades in the lineup. It slots guys better than what the Lakers currently do. Somebody like Rui becomes less appealing now because of the way that he's been deployed or has played or both over the last few weeks?
I mean, I guess I think teams can see what Rui is, see how he's been used. Well, I have more objection to how they've been using Rui in terms of how it affects the Lakers than
Sure.
how it actually affects his trade value.
No, I
not
agree with you. It's because I don't think they're trading him. So I think it's worse for the Lakers than it is. All I'm saying is a fun side note to this as we talk about the trade deadline is they haven't done a good job pumping up Rui's value.
That's fine. I don't even know if it's necessarily hurt his trade value. I'm more concerned with what they haven't done for the Lakers with Rui. But either way, I mean, at this point, I feel like Rui is a pretty known commodity, especially because he's been very consistent with the Lakers. If you like what you've seen from him with the Lakers, I imagine these last few weeks haven't really done anything.
Maybe. I don't know. Probably maybe it depends on the GM. It depends on the situation and things like that. But if you're talking about a guy that you want to re-sign, that like if you're thinking of wanting to trade him, like Dalton Connect, but then to get back to Dalton Connect, like his inability to turn himself into a prospect hurts both the Lakers because they need the skill set and they need his ability to be in the rotation. But then it obviously, his trade value around the league couldn't be lower.
That I 100% agree with you. Unless you are looking for a player to inexplicably two-hand shove Santi Aldama. In that case, Dalton's your guy.
Very specific need.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, that's not, and just be fair, I think the Lakers have had a role in mishandling how Rui played. I know you don't like the way that Rui's been used.
Nope.
The player is always a little bit responsible. I think in the case of Connect, it's Dalton. I do not blame the Lakers for their inability to feature Dalton in a way that makes Dalton look. They've tried.
Sure.
He hasn't played well. He hasn't earned any minutes.
Real quick, before we go, speaking of featuring guys, Deandre Ayton was more featured in the second game against Memphis. He got touches early in the game, which felt very intentional to get him involved. And he played. This is his best game in probably a week or so. He was closing. He had a lot of good defensive moments down the stretch. And, he was asked about this because JJ Saturday during practice acknowledged, as he put it, a human nature for a big man's effort to wax and wane if they're not getting the ball, not really feeling like they are part of the offense. DeAndre said on Sunday, quote, "Bigs can't feed themselves. I just try my best to do what I can to bring effort and trust my playmakers out there to find me." And look,
Jokic can feed himself, but that's a side note.
And look, to JJ's point, like that is standard stuff for bigs, like right or wrong. And I'm not asking anybody to defend Ayton on this, but it is common for bigs you see their energy dip if they don't get the ball. And I think there's probably a natural resentment when the same guards that you are often providing a defensive back line for are not remembering you on the other end. So, and I don't want to make this into a bigger deal than it is, because for the most of this season, I think Ayton's effort has been pretty consistent and pretty good.
Yeah.
That being said, though, what I do find interesting about this is because of Ayton's reputation and stuff that has happened in Phoenix and in Portland, he can only play that card or even look like he's playing that card so many times. And I would say, it's now felt officially played once. He ain't got that many more times, if any. Like, and again,
accurate message, bad messenger.
Well, and again, I want to be fair to DeAndre because I don't think this has been an issue for Ayton during the season, and I don't want to treat this like it's been something that the Lakers have been dealing with. And here we go. Now DeAndre Ayton's coming out. Like, I think there is a very good chance that after Sunday's game and getting maybe a bit of this out of his system, getting the ball more in ways that help the Lakers, things can go back to more of what we saw for the majority of like the first 25, 27 games, whatever. I just think it's interesting because at this point, DeAndre can only do this so many more times, and I mean limited.
There's a little more to this that I think is reflective of where the Lakers are. Obviously, there's a game on Tuesday night, so we'll, Wednesday's show will be primarily about that, and Thursday's show will be primarily about the game that happens on Wednesday. But if we get a chance to come back to this topic, it's sort of like the trade thing. It's about what it's about, but it's about more than that in ways that I hope to explain later in the week. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. Don't forget to go to the show notes. Check out the Everydayer Club. I forgot to mention that over the course of the episode. We'll do it again tomorrow. But we will see everyone after the New Orleans game. Thanks a lot.